I've been watching long before you possess this body you have, the same white body, unravelling the threads and losing the threads despite the cold. You reject any cushion. Blue yarn unknots from your white neck, a bruise millennia deep, unspooling. In one light, baby blue wool, in another, the mercurial discharge of oil. You do not belong on this island, once hidden by the gassed blue ice, expelling its weightlessness. This does not unsettle your perch on the rock, unspinning the fates' work, each twist brittle as arsenic, as distant blowouts. The glacier, a channel, a decade away, there is no valve between us.
I am as far north as I have ever been, as far as I likely will ever be again. At one point, there was nothing between me and the North Pole but a barren rock crowned with swirling puffins. I am on the Antigua, incongruously incubated with 28 other artists, activists, creators, makers and thinkers. We shouldn't be here. No one should. But here we are to learn and witness and create, to be inspired, mesmerized, metamorphized. Instead, I am frozen in body and spirit. This is an accidental micro-documentary pulled together from scraps of footage from iPhones and cameras with long lenses, from interviews on rocking boats. But maybe there's something here we all need to hear. And if it motivates you to make a small change, I think the scraps were worth pulling together, telling a small story that we hope will lead to big change here and there. We are with the Glacier Trust, an artist residency that brings together artists, activists, environmentalists, people that want to make change on one of the most vital issues of our time. What it means is that this amazing organisation has enabled the creatives of our realm to witness the beauty, vast expanse, fragility, wonder and destruction of another. I came searching for what most artists do. Time, space, silence, adventure, understanding, connection, inspiration, magic. And perhaps, if I was lucky, a better understanding of what was happening to this wondrous place. I had heard things, been told of destruction and disappearing. But what does this mean for any of us in the immediate moment? Every moment there, it meant something. I sit at the crossroads of art and activism. I'm not overly interested in the commercial pull of arts, but instead in how arts can be a conduit for positive change and transformation within communities that don't often have the privilege to opt in to creativity. Therefore, I often find myself within the very communities who are at the forefront of experiencing the first-hand results of climate disruption. Climate disruption is a change in the state of the climate over time. Anthropocene climate disruption is unprecedented. We are releasing the same heat energy that would be expelled by 500,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding on Earth every single day. It is shifting the delicate systems within our environment, which results in a myriad of issues, such as shifting weather patterns, rising sea levels, warming oceans, rising global temperatures, retreating glaciers, floods, ecosystems destroyed, just to name a few. The outcomes are agricultural destruction, drought, starvation, floods, fires, disease, mass human migration, resulting in battles for limited resources. And even here in the Arctic, one of the last bastions of supposedly pristine environments, I saw what every moment of inaction, uncertainty, and blissful ignoring had done, and how much closer to the edge we really were. As a natural freezer for our Earth, what happens here affects everywhere. It is all interconnected. As stated by Peter Wadhams, a professor of ocean physics and head of the Polar Ocean Physics Group at the University of Cambridge, the Arctic is where changes due to global warming happen first and is often considered as a leading indicator for the future of the planet. And the Arctic is warming approximately 3 times faster as lower latitudes. Permafrost is thawing, releasing methane and carbon dioxide, further warming the planet, further depleting the ice. I didn't just learn from books, but from hours walking across glaciers and marshlands and in numerous discussions in the cramped but cosy saloon. When creative and curious minds come together, there is a magic. We talked, we debated, we created. This is the beauty of a residency. It plants the seeds for new visions and ideas. I threw oranges with Adam Kubi. I buried Claudia Maria Calderon de Andares naked in the snow, hair sprawling. I created messages with the environment and then returned it as I found it. We all pulled rubbish from beneath sand and rocks to show the incredulous existence of it in this place. While each artist played, painted, and experimented, I watched the unfolding of new ways of seeing the environment, of engaging with it, of being with it. They were making the intangible, the ephemeral wisps of a concept drowning in data and debate, real, immediate, shocking, and part of us all. We were all creating and building a new reality and possible future within the very crumbling space that defied their ideas and dreams. These powerful, playful works moved me in a way none of the books, graphs, speeches, and data ever could. They invited me not only into new ways of understanding and experiencing the environment and its destruction, but provided new ways to experience hopefulness and alternative narratives of possibility. We are all living in a time of transition, but none more so than those on the front line of the effects of climate disruption. But what a contrast this was to places I worked in. We on the Antigua are the privileged few. We are educated. We have access to resources, information, and possess skills to create change. We will not experience the full effects of climate disruption, at least not immediately. It will be the underprivileged in developing countries who will be disproportionately affected, who will bear the burden of the initial stages. It won't be you and me. I felt like, as a collective, we had something to offer. Most interestingly for me was when arts and science intersected how much more exciting, dynamic, and accessible issues surrounding climate disruption became. How much more compelling, motivating, adventurous, with an underlying cry that we will not wait patiently for change, but will create it ourselves.
I am not a scientist, I am not an influential politician, yet I am not debilitated by extreme poverty and hardships. I am not ill and I am not alone. I am privileged enough to be educated and supported by a community of family, friends and colleagues, and encouraged to follow my curiosities and interests. This has enabled me to become an artist, and I believe that with this comes a responsibility to use this privilege as a means to reflect on and respond to the issues threatening the world we live in.
I wanted to move this idea from a place of observation and into action. I am lucky enough to be the founder and artistic director of a creative platform, Microgalleries. a platform I could use for targeted action. Microgalleries is a free roaming global arts initiative that uses art as a vehicle to create positive change within communities who don't normally get to see or engage with much contemporary art. We do this through creative interventions in public spaces, workshops, art tours, symposiums, think tanks, and residencies. We work together with communities who are in some kind of social or creative need and collectively create disruptions, new opportunities, imaginings, and creative possibilities. Throughout the year, we host a range of micro-injections which culminate in our annual Microgalleries Live Festival. We reclaim disused and forgotten spaces and reactivate them as open-air galleries that are free and accessible to the local community. The festival and initiatives move and relocate constantly to exponentially develop the positive impact from each community and their artists. The event highlights localised and global issues, providing platforms for awareness raising and deep contribution to global knowledge. And in all of our explorations and creative disruptions across low socioeconomic areas, I could see a common thread. People did not know or understand what was happening to their environment. Furthermore, if they did have any information, it was so data-soaked, abstract, and intangible that they dismissed it. Some of these communities are going to be the worst affected by climate disruption and yet have the least amount of access to information or power to make change or even have a voice in the global discussion. But I had first-hand experience of the power of using art for change. Art has been proven to have the ability to go beyond other means of communication. As Rusin, Klockner and Swim confirm, processing art requires parts of the brain that are not normally accessed by typical communications about climate change. It creates a visualization of the problem and develops personal experience with the subject matter. Using art to communicate creates a non-threatening, explorative environment that permits anyone the freedom of interpretation and involvement.
Hello, my name is Chris Bretos and I'm based in Athens, Greece. I've always cared about climate change issues and finding creative and new ways to communicate them. Especially in my country, Greece, it is kind of considered as an issue that is a bit of a luxury, kind of like an afterthought. And it has always been a challenge for me to find these ways to communicate climate change through new mediums, through new media that actually help people relate to climate change in new ways. I made an online platform called The Climate Collective, where we feature people's views, opinions and work on climate change from all over the world. And the main idea is for the platform to be interdisciplinary, so to highlight the intersections of climate change and environmental struggles with other disciplines and other ways of knowledge. And one of the things that I found out by working through this platform is how important and useful art can be as a medium of communicating climate change, be it through music, painting, film. Art gives a whole new way for people to relate to climate change, but also to other issues that pertain to environmental struggles, such as ecofeminism or plastic pollution, or how workers' rights relate to climate change, or immigration and climate change, so environmental refugees. All of these exciting ways that can be attributed to the visual ways with which we promote climate change through art.
We wanted to apply this idea, so it was decided our next initiative would be in Kathmandu. Nepal is squeezed in between China and India and is disproportionately affected by climate disruption for its size amongst the mega players. One of the poorest countries in the world, with over 42% living below the poverty line, it is a little place on the receiving end of some big environmental consequences, including retreating glaciers, erratic rainfall, disease halting agricultural practices, and an increase in dire events such as extreme droughts and floods. The Kathmandu Valley, within which lies the capital Kathmandu, and the city of Bhutan, where we focus our project, has seen huge and rapid urban expansion, and their 2.5 million people residing in its golden hazed lanes are straining the natural ecosystems and putting the water supply system under unendurable stress. The air is a constant sepia cloud and was ranked as the worst air quality in the world by the Environmental Performance Index in 2018. All this, and yet many at the community level have very limited understanding about the causes and effects of any of this. So, attached to our annual festival, I created the Micro Galleries Disrupting Climate Disruption Artist Residency. Over 10 days in Kathmandu, 11 micro-galleries international collective artists joined 4 local Kathmandu artists and a range of local climate change scientists, NGOs, activists, and community. It was an incubator environment to open up the conversation, share knowledge, skills, and develop new artworks that communicate climate disruption, its implications, and creative imaginings for the local community. To get our footing and some context of the space we had all just been flung into, we spent a day walking Kathmandu. This incredibly dynamic city is not just prayer flags, stupas, and pilgrims seeking spiritual fulfillment or spiritual adrenaline from the mountains, but a culture in between worlds, ancient artisans alongside experimental new creative practitioners, old religious traditions pushing within and against the desire for modernization and embracing new ways of being. This tension of a country desperate to change and stay the same can only be seen and felt by being there on the ground. Then we incubated. We kicked off with a high-speed, intense information upgrade in climate disruption. The science, the politics, the local cultural interpretation, local creative responses, and innovative organisations working in the space. I gave an overview thanks to Al Gore's Climate Reality Leadership Core program, which I was lucky enough to be part of only months before. Then we let the professionals take over.
What it means is that, again, the idea of responsibility, who is going to provide aid and to which country. So this was very easy for US.
Academics Sarashi Dungana and Sveta Kaki spoke about how climate change impacted international relations. The team from the International Centre for Integrated Mountain Development visited. Our regional intergovernmental learning and knowledge sharing centre serving the 8 regional member countries of the Hindu Kush Himalaya. They gave insight into the wider problem in remote mountainous areas and shared the obstacles they face in communicating so much of the data and stories they have gathered.
It's an urgent need for action from an individual, from governments, for governments to work together. It's really an urgency, and I think it's sometimes hard to communicate that in a way that people feel that need.
We then honed in on innovative solutions with smartphones for water. A huge problem in areas such as Nepal is the accumulation of and access to data. They have created a simple app that they train young researchers and citizen scientists to use to help them gather data to make change. All they need are donated smartphones.
What if science is visible to everyone? what if science is visible everywhere? What if science is accessible everywhere to everyone?
Local artist activist Milan Rai showed us his climate-related work, shared his experience of being an artist working with environmental issues, and how he works together with governments and local communities. You might know him from his globally recognised art project that has literally created a butterfly effect. The White Butterfly Project has now travelled around the world and become synonymous with the peaceful cry for social and environmental change, showing our artists how the simplest of symbols and gestures can make the most profound impact. And that's really what we need right now: impact. After 3 decades of communication efforts from various industries, we still are at crisis point. Some of the world's most prominent leaders at this very moment are still arguing that Anthropocene climate change even exists. What's going wrong? Bruson and company outline issues with current climate disruption communication. It fails to attract attention, lacks the element to encourage personal engagement, fails to stimulate lateral or creative thinking or conversation, lacks the dimension of storytelling, and fails to inspire. Climate disruption art makes the biggest threat to our existence a cultural reality. Julianne Kniebusch says that artistic explorations should not be restricted to illustrating our scientific discoveries, but should instead help us to experience and reveal inner participation with climate change, the same way landscape artists reframed the relationship of humans to their environment. For one weekend, we wanted to reframe how the local community engaged with climate disruption. So the artists moved into creative development. With only 4 days until they were featured in Microgallery's opening night, this group of artists from around the world, most who had never even met before, embarked on an intensive collaborative experience. Their task? To transform the laneway of the Nakaba Hill community into a simple, immersive, interactive experience that communicated ideas about climate disruption in a way that was accessible to the community. It should provoke curiosity and willingness to engage, but most importantly, be positive and hopeful, and involve them. Previous studies have shown that apocalyptic messages about our future terrify people into immediate action through triggering guilt and shame. But it is not sustained, and the status quo soon returns. Per Epson Stokes believes the new psychology of climate action lies in letting go, not of science, but of the crutches of abstractions and doomism. Everything we are currently faced with is apocalyptic. It does not change minds or put people into a space of action. However, if provided an opportunity to engage on a subject with self-autonomy, freedom of interpretation, self-determination, and the work inspires, then this combination psychologically triggers a willingness to consider things in a new light, to embrace unconventional solutions, to really feel as though change is possible.
We decided to create the symbol of a snake using various mediums such as pigments, spray paint, plastic bottles, bricks, and all sorts of material we could recycle in order to involve all the diverse practices of the artists who were part of this residency. We had a lot of people with different backgrounds, from fine arts to street art, installation, music, some with more conceptual approach, digital art, and all these people would work together to create a single massive installation for the people in the neighborhood. The point was to use popular religious symbol here in Nepal, the snake. The snake is also the symbol of water, which due to climate change becomes more and more precious.
The point was to create an artwork that invites the viewer to interact in playful ways while bringing up important topics like water issues, garbage problems and carbon dioxide emissions. We hoped the community would cherish and adapt the artwork and develop it further.
But actually, the plants are part of the residency project, and it's a garden made out of bottle. So originally the idea was to be at the beginning of the snake shape, but when we started to plant the flowers, it happened that all the ladies in that house came out and were very curious. So I just asked some help because there were many flowers to plant. And on their own, they just started to put it on the house, and they were so proud. And as soon as they said, we give them water, if you put it on the other side, nobody's gonna care. It's just like everything changed. And
local people have been very curious to hear about what we do, and they've been kind of like active and coming up and interacting. So I think that has been great thing when we have really had a chance to encounter and discuss about things.
I think it has helped in filling the gaps between traditional Nepali art and contemporary art scene in Nepal.
Over the 9 days that we've been here working within the street, we've had sort of varying responses. At the beginning, I think the community was a little bit unsure of what we were doing, and that was great because it gave us a chance to sort of respond to the kinds of different outcomes and expectations of what art could be in the community. It's a very traditional community, so it was really I guess our task as artists was to see what they felt and to respond to that.
Underneath the brick, there is different food things, and so much of that thing is for Kathmandu.
With limited budget and resources, we had done it. From the Arctic to the community of Nakaba Hill. We had created our own butterfly effect, and the wings beat on, with various residency members continuing to create. It is my belief that artists are the visionaries, communicators, and imagineers of a different, better, more equitable and sustainable future. By providing opportunities for artists to become the new communicators of this intangible, slow violence and transition this into a positive engagement for change, we can change the world in a small but important way. My experience of the past year is that it's not people sitting in a room telling us what they hope they can do, but us out there in the public changing the culture of our time. Simon O'Sullivan's contemporary art paradigm states, practices are not made for an existing audience, as it were, but in order to call forth, to invoke an audience. It is our turn to invoke. So here at Micro Galleries, we have a call to action. The Disrupting Climate Disruption Global Day of Creative Action. On September 23rd, 2019, 100 heads of state and government will meet for the UN's Climate Change Summit. While people in suits sit in rooms discussing the urgency of slow change, we will be all over the world creating small change with urgency. Select microgalleries artists from around the world will each be developing a public creative response to climate disruption, documenting it, and creating a sequel to this rough and ready documentary on the outcomes. We call on you to join us. Do you have an idea? Something you could place, do, film, show, make in your community that will impassion, inspire and educate about what is happening to our Earth? Sign up, join us and be part of this day of action. Start your own butterfly effect that might take you from ice to dust to action. Let's place art around the world that shows everyone what is really happening, that we care, and that we have an idea to help change the world in small and creative ways.